Hello, you're back with Dave and Tim at a single malt review, and as long-time fans of Adelphi's independently bottled whiskey, we're always excited to see another Ardnamurchan, a product of Adelphi's own distillery.
Yes, indeed. Over there in Argyll on the west coast, where they're probably having awful weather right now as they descend into winter, but never mind. This is actually doubly exciting. This is one of two Ardnamurchans you're going to see from us in rapid succession. But this one we're going to taste first because it is the less peated of it, and that's one of the things that's really exciting. This is unpeated spirit from Ardnamurchan, which I have never, and a great many people have probably never tasted. It's also cask strength, and very curiously, this is the, if that shows up, it is the Launois. I think I pronounced that correctly, but if I've not, never mind, it won't be the first thing we've mispronounced on the channel. Edition, and it is aged in, and here's the real weird Twilight Zone stuff, champagne casks.
Yeah, it's a finish, right?
Yeah, it is. I'm not sure how long the finish was. I probably could have found that out, but never mind. Long enough, we're sure. And yeah, champagne casks. I didn't know, and I have some education in wine. I had no idea champagne went into oak, ever. Obviously it doesn't, typically. I would have been badly wrong there, but evidently some niche producers do use oak as part of the process. I'll probably get a photo to materialise in front of you here, but the Launois producers themselves are very, very weird in that their barrel hall looks like some sort of art installation with the barrels hanging from the ceiling by wires all suspended about a metre off the ground. It looks like the most space inefficient thing in the universe, but
some airflow though for
it looks pretty, I guess. Yeah, I've had it described to me as H.R. Geiger's barrel hall. There is an aspect of weirdness to it. Everything just sort of suspended in the air. I don't know. Who knows? But what I do know is this is an incredibly compelling drop, so let's get straight into it.
What do you know about the original casks? What it matured in most of the way?
Oh, Ardnamurchan has got, as you might expect from Adelphi, an absolutely bustling library of things to choose from. So they will be primarily in bourbon now, this being their stock for general release. This is stuff that's going to be 10 years old one day. Well, not this particular finish, because that's all wrapped up now, but it's not the incredibly sort of very single casky, very sherry dominated, very little port pipes and all kinds of crazy active wood that we saw the first few pre-releases, the first AD releases back even before it was whiskey, when it was too young to be called such. That was a very, very different style of whiskey, because that was aged in these tiny, tiny little super expressive casks in order to get it to a place it needed to be, in order to be worthwhile, in order to be good.
I did have the fortune of trying some of the new make pre-whiskey spirit as an Ardnamurchan tasting some years ago, including a PX cask sample.
Yeah, it's been a hell of a ride. But now that we're getting into, they've been distilling for 7 years now, so I guess that's the maximum age of what's ever going to be in a bottle now. I think it's 7 years, thereabouts anyway. And so it's sort of finding more of a centre and becoming a bit more, I guess, conventional as a whiskey. So a lot more bourbon in there, a lot more refill sherry, and a lot less of these super exotic tiny little sherry casks, quarter casks, port pipes, things like that. So the whiskey's sort of settling down, it's stabilising, it's gone through its turbulent teenage years, and it's learning how to work for a living. But this one's its own whole special weirdo thing going on, so we will
natural
get
colour,
right in there.
obviously no filtering.
No, none at all.
It's
and the
impressively
strength,
dark for such a young whiskey, but then you can look at that strength.
The strength is 57.6, so that's no slouch, but considering the maximum age, the oldest this could possibly be is 7 years, that's quite a heavy loss.
It's some very active, very porous casks.
Yeah. And champagne casks, we'll assume that just means European oak, and goodness knows what else is going on flavour-wise. We will just have to find out.
Cool. Already on the nose, there are some interesting characters.
Yeah. So first thing I noticed on the nose, it's actually really gentle. You can get right in there and nothing bad happens. It's pretty mellow.
I am getting a quite a strong hint of that very dry, perfumey property of vintage French champagne.
There's there's a real creaminess,
Yeah.
and there's an interesting sort of there's a sweet wood, there's a sandalwood quality kind of
Slightly incense
in there. But yeah, that creaminess, oiliness, that I think is going to really come through in the palate until we add water.
Yeah.
This is what we've seen time and again. These cask strength whiskies with a really interesting creamy, oily quality to it, pastry quality sometimes, and you put water in, and suddenly, if you've lost it, so I hope you like what you got, because it doesn't survive the sort of addition. But anyway, we'll get there shortly. There's coconut in here, there's quite a lot of bourbon characters. And then there's a really fresh kind of fruitiness, which, despite the sort of the cream and the oiliness and the super high strength, is still very, very fresh, very juicy. Maybe a bit of tropical fruit even, maybe a little bit of guava-y kind of stuff going on. So, at full strength, let's see if we can take the hit. Oh, it's pretty keen.
That's got almost a fizz to it. It's almost like a sparkling whiskey. It's obviously still of it clearly, but it has a very prickly, lively.
So, I think that's one part. This is very young, very strong spirit. So it's got we'll charitably call that a vibrancy to it, youthful vibrancy for sure. But there is an almost not quite sherbety, but there's a zest to it.
I would call it sherbety. It's also lots of lemon zest, a bit of grapefruit, citrus, and bitterness. I like that. I barely had to swallow. It just evaporated in my mouth. It just disappeared. Sucked straight into my capillaries.
Yeah, it's very rapid for a single cask, cask strength, that has had no water put in at all yet. Cask strength, and it moves. It really moves across the palate.
There's so much lemon and lime happening.
That zest, the citrus zest, really, really just zings it across and keeps it on going to the pretty compact finish. So it's a tight wee package of whiskey, considering how strong it is. I think adding a bit of water might expand things. Might get a bit further into what's going on here. So I guess first we'll see watch for any significant cloud, and there's not a huge amount.
No, there's some visiometric swirling happening, but it's staying pretty clear once it's dissolved.
So it hasn't taken on a huge amount of sort of oiliness and barrely goodness just yet. So that might just be going to sit there and stay clear until I put more in.
That aroma is starting to transform though.
Yeah, now we've got fruity custard coming out. So the creaminess hasn't gone away completely. It's just, it's custardified, which is not a word.
Sherry and Christmas pudding.
Yeah. I think this is wholly improved by that addition of water.
Oh.
Because the freshness has only gotten fresher. That really prickly lemon zest, which it probably had more than it really needed, is still there, but it's acting, it's acting more cohesively with the other flavours. There's much more fruit. And the palate's still leaning interestingly tropical in there. There's still not quite mango, not full out mango. It would be a bit weird having mango notes in a whiskey, but sort of almost a dried guava.
It's gone a little bit. It's a hint of dankness coming through, a bit of old tinned fruit flavour, which is not really appealing to me. It's something you get off some very old Speyside when you add water to it.
Right.
It's a bit of that happening, just a hint. But it's enough to make it a little bit off-putting.
And now there's licorice as well, interestingly. A bit of licorice, a bit of aniseed. Yeah, it goes on and on, as a lot of these quite complex cask strength numbers can. It's a whiskey you probably could sit and taste for ages, but that would be boring if you weren't actually tasting it. So we will summarise quickly here and score. I think on the one hand, it's fascinating because it's a glance into the inner workings of the Ardnamurchan's output, which is normally very, very, very difficult to get a look at. They have their house style, which is not a mega peated whiskey, but it's a distinctly peated whiskey, as we are going to discover with the look at the next one. To peel that layer of peat back and see what's going on under the hood, that's a rare thing to be able to do, especially when you think of distilleries that regularly peat. I think the only other one that really, really gives that look is Bunnahabhain on Isla and Springbank in Campbellton. They both have unpeated versions for us to taste of an otherwise quite peaty whiskey. Although I suppose it's almost the other way for Bunnahabhain. They do bugger all peated stuff. You have to really ask for it if you want peat out of Bunnahabhain these days. But still applies, and it's always fascinating to really good look, under the hood to see what the component parts of a whiskey are.
Yeah, just as an aside, I added a little more water just then, and I think the problem I had first is I added too little water, because now that I've added more, that dank tinned fruit property has gone, and we've just got this grapefruit, passion fruit, feijoa and nectar. It is delectable.
Oh, it is, yeah, this just gets fruitier and fruitier. This is a thirsty dram, alright.
Yeah, there's many whiskies in one. You keep adding water, you keep getting a new flavour experience. It is...
Yeah, you keep getting more whiskey too, it's amazing. God, if only everything worked like that. Anyway, I think scores for this one. This one is maybe more fascinating than it is the best whiskey in the world. It's a very, very good whiskey, but it's not out there to beat the world when they've only got 7 years worth of output to work with. It's more of a really, really tantalising look into something than it is a world-beating whiskey. But even so, it's still an 86 for me. It's doing really, really well for a significantly younger than usual cask strength offering. What do you think?
Oh, fascinating counts for a lot with me. This is a tantalising, intriguing, and entirely novel whiskey experience, building on an already racehorse fast pace of development and evolution of Ardnamurchan style. They're using a novel kind of wood, going in a new direction, delivering a whole bunch of new flavours. This is a 90-pointer for me.
Ooh, there you go. There you go. Got on the intellectual ticket there. Has brought this one across. And I'll say this much. This one is priced to move, at least where I bought it. This is one of the cheaper sort of cask strength offerings I've been able to get, and considering the output of that distillery is minuscule compared to most of the others, it's very, very generously priced. To put it in perspective, you could get this for about the same price as one of the aforementioned bottles of champagne, and I think I'd rather have one of these. There's a bit more gone into this one, but anyway, to each their own. And to us, another Ardnamurchan coming up next. So I hope you like it, because you're getting a double hit. All right, Slanger, we'll be right back.